Okay, let's be honest for a second. When you hear the words emergency fund, it's not exactly the most thrilling thing, is it?
Not really, no. I mean, it's one of those things you should probably do,
Right.
but it doesn't exactly spark joy.
Exactly. But we're diving deep into this today using building an emergency fund, the
Yeah.
secret no one tells you,
Okay.
to figure out why this sort of dull topic is actually the key to peace of mind and financial freedom. You might be surprised how empowering it can be.
Yeah, you know what I found interesting about this source is that it kind of changes how you think about an emergency fund.
Okay.
Like, it's not just about having a ton of money just sitting around waiting for something terrible to
I,
happen.
I see what you mean, yeah. It's not just job loss or
Right, exactly.
some big medical emergency, the things you always hear about.
Yeah. It's really about having a buffer, for all those little unexpected things that pop up in life.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. If your washing machine breaks down,
Oh,
or you
yeah.
suddenly have a big vet bill,
Ugh, don't even get me started.
exactly, it can really throw your finances off.
Yeah, that feeling of stability
Yeah,
makes those things so much less overwhelming.
exactly. And what's interesting is that the source says that this financial stability,
Hmm.
it should actually be prioritized even above stuff like paying off debt or investing.
Okay, now hold on a second. Isn't that a little controversial? I mean, those things are important too.
Oh, absolutely they are.
Ugh.
But here's the thing. The source argues that if you don't have that emergency fund,
Yeah.
you're much more likely to end up using credit cards or loans when those unexpected costs come up.
Right.
And that can lead to, a debt spiral,
Yeah.
which makes achieving those other goals even harder in the long run.
So you're saying it's about laying down that solid foundation
Exactly.
before you move on to those other things.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's starting to make sense. But I think a lot of people, and I'm including myself here,
Yep.
get kind of intimidated by that advice of, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved. Like, that's a lot.
Well, that's where this source is really helpful. It kind of debunks that myth that you need a mountain of cash
Yeah.
to even get started.
So you're saying you don't have to do it all at once?
No, not at all. The secret they talk about is starting small.
Oh, okay.
Even like $500 or $1,000
Okay.
can make a huge psychological difference.
It's kind of that idea that little wins can help you gain momentum to
Exactly.
keep going.
Yeah, the source talks about the psychology behind it, like how those small successes,
Right,
they create this feeling of accomplishment and it motivates you
right.
to keep saving.
Yeah, it's not so much about the actual amount.
Right.
It's that positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And they go on to say that being consistent, even with small amounts,
Uh-huh.
is way more effective than saving a lot every now and then.
So slow and steady, that's the key.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And to help with that consistency,
Yeah.
the source recommends setting up automatic transfers to your savings.
Oh, yeah, I can see how that would take the thinking out of it.
Right.
And make it so much easier.
Exactly. And then they get into some more specific details.
Okay.
It's not just open a savings account. They actually recommend looking into high-yield savings or money market accounts.
Oh, interesting. So what's the benefit of those compared to just a regular savings account?
Well, both of those typically have higher interest rates.
Okay.
So your money can actually grow a bit while it's sitting there.
That's cool.
Like a high-yield savings account is usually with online banks, and they may have slightly higher rates,
Got it.
while a money market account, usually at a traditional bank, might come with check writing privileges. So they both have pros and cons,
Yeah.
depending on, what you need.
It's like getting a little bonus for being responsible.
Exactly. And they really emphasize this.
Yeah.
Keep your emergency fund separate from your everyday spending money.
Oh, yeah. Out of sight, out of mind.
That's it.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's about making that mental distinction. Like, this isn't for your daily coffee.
Right.
This is your safety net.
Right. But what about when you actually have an emergency? I mean, that's what it's for.
Exactly. And that's where this source, I think, really puts people at ease.
Okay.
It's like they're saying, look, using your emergency fund,
Yeah.
that's not failing. That's a win.
Oh, interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, like you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Right.
In fact, the source says it means the system is working like it's supposed to. You built that safety net,
Yeah.
and now it's there to catch you.
Yeah. Okay. But once you've used some of it, or even all of it,
Right.
how do you get back on track? Like, how do you build it back up?
Well, the source gives a few ideas on how to rebuild it quickly. One thing they say is you can temporarily increase your savings contributions.
Yeah.
Even a little bit extra each month can make a big difference.
Like tightening the belt for a bit
Exactly.
to get back to that sense of security.
Yeah. Another strategy is to see if you can cut back on some of your spending, the stuff that's not essential.
Right?
This doesn't have to be some huge lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Just maybe eating out less or finding cheaper ways to have fun for a couple months.
I appreciate that the source gives these really practical tips, not
Yeah.
just like vague ideas.
It's about finding what works for you.
Right.
The main thing is to have a plan, so you're not starting from zero every time something happens.
You know, this whole conversation has really changed how I think about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about saving for emergencies.
Right.
It's about being financially resilient, you know?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And, the source really argues that having a good emergency fund,
Yeah.
it can actually make your life less stressful and more fulfilling overall.
Because when you know you can handle those unexpected costs,
Right.
you're free to make different choices without that fear of like financial ruin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source talks about how money stress
Yeah.
can affect so many parts of our lives,
Uh-huh.
our relationships, our health, even our ability to do the things we love.
Yeah, it's like carrying around this weight you can't see.
Exactly.
Mm.
And by building that emergency fund, it's like you're taking that weight off your shoulders.
Right.
So you can make decisions because you want to, not because you're scared.
It sounds like that feeling of freedom from stress
Yeah.
is almost as valuable as the money itself.
Yeah, the source actually says that that psychological benefit,
Mm.
that's the most powerful part of having an emergency fund.
Yeah.
It's about having peace of mind, knowing that you're prepared
Yeah.
no matter what life throws at you.
You know, it's funny, this source has really made me rethink this whole thing.
Yeah.
I always thought of an emergency fund as like this chore,
Right.
but now I see it as a way to have more freedom and control.
Yeah, it's a whole different way of thinking about it. And it shows you that personal finance,
Uh-huh.
it's not just about numbers and spreadsheets,
Right.
It's about how you feel about money,
Yeah.
your well-being, and being able to live the life you want.
So we've spent this deep dive really digging into building an emergency fund, the secret no one tells you.
Yeah, it's been pretty eye-opening.
Definitely.
Like, we've talked about how emergency funds aren't just about those big disasters.
Right.
They're about having that cushion so you can handle all of life's surprises.
Yeah, and we busted some myths too.
Right?
Like that you need a ton of money to even start.
Exactly.
Or that if you use your emergency fund, you've somehow messed up.
Yeah, the source really stresses starting small and being consistent. And it says that using your emergency fund means the system's working, not that you've failed.
And we talked about the practical stuff too, like different savings accounts
Right.
and how to build your fund back up after you've used it.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But it all comes back to that main idea, the power of an emergency fund to give you financial security and peace of mind.
It's that feeling of knowing you have a backup plan.
Exactly.
So you can make decisions without being afraid of going broke.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your money
Right.
and building a life where you're not constantly stressed about making ends meet.
So, as we wrap things up here, we want to leave you with this thought. What could you do if you weren't always worried about money?
That's a good question.
What dreams would you go after? What chances would you take?
Building an emergency fund isn't just about being prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
It's about giving yourself the power to go after the best things in life.